Once upon a time, there was a detective named Jack. Jack was a very good detective, and he had solved many mysteries in his career. He was known for his keen eye for detail and his ability to connect the dots. One day, Jack received a call from the police department. There had been a robbery at a jewelry store, and they needed Jack's help to solve the case. Jack arrived at the jewelry store and immediately started looking for clues. He noticed that the lock on the door had been broken, and there were footprints on the floor. He also noticed that some of the jewelry had been left behind, while others had been taken. Jack spoke to the store owner, a man named Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith told Jack that the jewelry that had been taken was worth a lot of money, and that he had no idea who could have done it. Jack listened carefully to Mr. Smith's story and then started to ask questions. He asked if anyone had been acting strange around the store recently, or if there had been any suspicious activity. Mr. Smith couldn't think of anything out of the ordinary, but he promised to call Jack if he thought of anything. Jack left the store and went to the police station to analyze the clues he had gathered. He looked at the footprints and noticed that they were made by a size 9 shoe. He also noticed that the footprints were slightly pointed inwards, which meant that the person who made them had a slight limp. Jack decided to visit the shoe store in town to see if he could find any leads. He spoke to the store owner and asked if anyone had recently purchased a size 9 shoe with a pointed inward foot. The store owner told Jack that a man had bought a pair of shoes like that a few days ago. He had a slight limp and was wearing a hat and sunglasses, which the store owner found strange. Jack thanked the store owner and then went back to the police station to look through the mugshots. He found a man who matched the description of the shoe store customer and showed the picture to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith immediately recognized the man as one of his regular customers. He had come into the store a few times to look at the jewelry and seemed very interested in the most expensive pieces. Jack and the police department went to the man's house to arrest him. They found the stolen jewelry hidden under his bed, along with the tools he had used to break into the store. The man was arrested and sent to jail. Mr. Smith was overjoyed to get his jewelry back, and he thanked Jack for his help. "Thank you, Jack," Mr. Smith said. "You truly are the best detective in town." Jack smiled and said, "It was my pleasure, Mr. Smith. I'm just doing my job." From that day on, Jack continued to solve mysteries and help people in need. He had a talent for finding clues and piecing together evidence, and he never stopped until he found the truth. He was the best detective in town, and everyone knew it. As Jack walked back to his office, he thought about the case he had just solved. It had been a challenging one, but he was proud of himself for cracking it. However, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the case than what he had uncovered. Jack decided to do some more investigating, just to be sure. He went back to the jewelry store and looked at the security camera footage. He noticed that the man who had broken into the store was wearing a watch that looked very expensive. Jack asked Mr. Smith if he knew anything about the watch. Mr. Smith said that he didn't, but that he would try to find out more information. A few days later, Mr. Smith called Jack with some news. He had found out that the watch the thief was wearing was made by a very exclusive and expensive brand. The only store in town that sold that brand of watch was a high-end department store called Sinclair's. Jack went to Sinclair's and spoke to the sales associate who worked in the watch department. He showed her a picture of the watch from the security camera footage and asked if she recognized it. The sales associate nodded and said, "Yes, I remember that watch. We sold it to a man a few days ago. He was very particular about what he wanted and seemed to have a lot of money to spend." Jack asked if she could remember anything else about the man, and she said that he had been wearing a hat and sunglasses, and that he had a slight limp. Jack thanked the sales associate and left the store. He went back to the police station and looked through the mugshots again. He found a man who matched the description and showed the picture to the sales associate. The sales associate immediately recognized the man and said, "Yes, that's the man who bought the watch. He was very strange and gave me a creepy feeling. Jack knew he was on the right track. He decided to do some more investigating and found out that the man was a well-known art thief who had been on the run for years. Jack knew that he had to act fast. He went to the man's house and found him packing a bag. Jack arrested the man and searched his bag. He found several stolen pieces of art, including a painting that had been missing for years. The man was sent to jail for his crimes, and the stolen art was returned to its rightful owners. Jack had solved another case and had caught a dangerous criminal in the process. Jack was proud of himself for his hard work and dedication to his job. He knew that being a detective was not an easy job, but he loved the thrill of the hunt and the satisfaction of solving a case. As he sat in his office, Jack thought about the next case he would tackle. He knew that there would always be more mysteries to solve and more criminals to catch. And he was ready for the challenge. Jack had been working as a detective for years, and he had seen his fair share of cases. But there was one case that he had never been able to solve. It was a cold case from years ago, and it had always bothered him that he couldn't find the killer. One day, Jack received a phone call from a woman who said that she had information about the case. She said that she had been at the scene of the crime and had seen the killer. Jack met with the woman, and she told him what she had seen. She gave him a description of the killer and the car he had been driving. Jack knew that this was the break he had been waiting for. He went back to the police station and pulled up the old case files. He looked at the witness statements and the evidence, and he started to piece together the puzzle. As he worked on the case, he realized that there were some things that didn't add up. He went back to the crime scene and looked around. He noticed that there was a piece of evidence that had been missed. Jack took the evidence back to the lab and had it analyzed. The results were shocking. The evidence proved that the killer was not who everyone thought it was. It was someone else entirely. Jack knew that he had to act fast. He went back to the woman who had given him the information and asked her if she could identify the killer. She agreed to go with him to a lineup, and she picked out the person she had seen that night. Jack arrested the man and took him back to the police station. The man confessed to the crime and gave details about what had happened that night. He said that he had been drunk and had gotten into an argument with the victim. He didn't remember what had happened after that, but he knew that he had killed the victim. Jack was relieved that the case had finally been solved. He knew that he had made a difference in the world and had brought justice to the victim and their family. As Jack walked out of the police station, he felt a sense of satisfaction. He knew that being a detective was not just a job, it was a calling. It was about making the world a safer place and helping those who couldn't help themselves. Jack knew that there would always be more cases to solve and more criminals to catch. But he was ready for the challenge, and he knew that he had what it took to be a great detective. As he walked down the street, Jack saw a young boy who was lost. He stopped to help the boy find his way home. And as he walked away, he knew that he had made a difference in that boy's life too. Jack smiled to himself as he walked back to his car. He knew that he had found his purpose in life, and he was proud to be a detective.